Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
Before we get started this week, folks, I do want to share some sad news in the pro wrestling community here. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, one half of the Midnight Express and also a member of the Dangerous Alliance. Unfortunately, he's gone up to that great ring in the sky. Yes, he has passed away, folks, and just really a tough day here. Beautiful Bobby was such a fantastic wrestler, especially in tag team wrestling. Primarily, he worked in the Southern Territories, like Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA, WCW. But just overall, you won't hear anyone say a negative thing about beautiful Bobby Eaton because he was a classy human being, a fantastic wrestler, and certainly someone that we will miss. So once again, rest in heaven, beautiful Bobby Eaton.
You're locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Victory today is mine. I told billionaire Tony Khan to shove it up his ear, and victory today is mine. That's right, Jack. Victory is mine. Okay? Tony Khan, billionaire Tony, ATM Tony, he and his brain trust minions, they tried to come after Duke Loves Rasslin. They filed a frivolous report with Facebook. Okay? Tried to take ownership of one of my videos. They tried to take me out. They tried to take me out, folks. And I told you last week, I will draw up a release. Billionaire Tony, you can sign it so everything is legal. And then you can come down here to Boston and we can engage. And you can knuckle up, hand-to-hand combat. Or you can come on the show and we can verbally settle this. But once and for all, I have some discipline that can be handed out to you because clearly you're out of your mind. I said it last week, okay? I said it last week. I meant it. I still mean it. I told Facebook to let that fool know that he will never have ownership of anything that I do. That it was a frivolous filing that he and his minions over there made. And sure enough, when Facebook sent it to AEW, they had to concede that, yes, they had no right to file what they filed against Duke Loves Rasslin. So, Facebook released ownership of all the videos there, so I'm back with it. Whew. Try to take me out, man. But see, this is what happens when you stand up to a bully. Because make no mistake about it, I don't care how many billions of dollars that you have, okay? You might be able to beat me up, take me out, take what's mine, but I'm not going to go out without a fight, okay? You come after me, I might take a nose, I might take an ear, I might bite your finger off, I might take your kneecaps out. I'm taking a piece of you as I go down, okay? I'm not going out without a fight. And I think once and for all, I've proven to these punks, you can't just step to the Duke and think that you're going to be able to, I'm going to roll over and just accept it. It ain't going to happen. So, again, billionaire Tony Khan and his brain trust over there at AEW, they tried to take down Duke Loves Rasslin, and they lost. Of course they lost, and they'll keep losing. In the meantime, when it comes to black male singles wrestlers, when it comes to the women, you can bet, just like I've been doing from day one, I'm going to keep bringing this up. I'm going to keep calling them out until they actually provide some equitable diversity. This is never going to stop. and you can follow all the frivolous stuff that you want. You could try to get my page taken down, the whole 9 yards, billionaire Tony. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to stay on you because you are going to make good on those promises that you made as it relates to diversity and inclusion. And let me tell all you folks out there something, because there's some of you out there who, I don't know what's going on. It's like you want to take shots for Master, and you know, there's no need for that. Stay in the house, okay? I deal with the plantation owner. You stay in the house. You're not built for this. You're going to sit there and try to take shots, take hits for Tony Khan when he's not doing the right thing. I'm talking to your master here. You stay where you are, okay? Just put it out there like that. Shout out to my man, Al Kanawa, who is a great dude. You know, he's with Forbes magazine. He had a fantastic interview with Foundation Radio, which I encourage everybody to definitely check out because it's a conversation worth having, right? Discussing everything under the sun, but especially the lack of diversity, equitable diversity in AEW. And, you know, Al did a great job. And then Al put out a fantastic video in which he went over the whole Adam Cole situation. And you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially if Adam Cole goes to AEW is going to continue to get whiter, which is true. All right, so I encourage everybody to check out Al Kanawa because he has some great content, and he is, you know, he's leading the charge on his side of the block there as it relates to this diversity and inclusion stuff. He's called out the WWE for years. He's also patted them on the back for doing the right thing, and now Al is fixed on AEW and asking them, hey, when are you going to start doing the right thing? And I'm with them. In fact, we're going to have Al on the show next week. And you bet your bottom dollar this is going to be Tony Khan's biggest nightmare. Because not one, but two powerful black voices going over receipts, okay, checking AEW's temperature. And let me tell you something. It ain't looking too good for them. So stay tuned for that next week. It's going to be a fun conversation. I can't wait for you all to hear it. That's for sure. You know, this week in wrestling has been really interesting. Aleister Black, speaking of AEW, speaking of white guys in AEW, he had a match with Cody Rhodes. And, you know, Aleister, he looked a little winded, which is okay, you know, getting the ring rust off. He was doing all of his kicks and his little stuff there, and that was interesting. To Cody's credit, he put Aleister way over. It's interesting. I've never seen Cody Rhodes put a black wrestler over, but he certainly, at least not in AEW, but he certainly, you know, has a habit of putting these white guys over. But he put Aleister Black over very strong, and Aleister defeated him, Cody, cleanly, by the way, which was interesting. So Cody starts taking his boots off, and, you know, he's going to retire. He's doing a speech as if he's calling it quits, right? Aleister hits him with the chair, and that's how they ended Dynamite. So we'll see what happens there. Is Cody going to retire? That would be wonderful. You know, Cody Rhodes, I hope you stop wrestling because you're an executive. So maybe if you stop trying to wrestle, you can get back to focusing on what matters most, which is helping other wrestlers become stars, right? Which is featuring more women's talent and women's content on AEW Dynamite, which is black male singles wrestlers, actually treating them the same way you treat their white male peers, right? So yeah, Cody, please hang up the boots, brother. Get out of the ring, stay in the back, and let's see some real executive moves being made here. I won't hold my breath, though. Breaking news out of the WWE, Ric Flair requested his release, and it was granted. So Ric Flair is no longer under WWE contract. Okay, Rick is in his early 70s. It's not like he's wrestling anymore. But he wasn't satisfied with staying on the sidelines and not being utilized more by WWE. And I understand that. I don't fault Rick for that at all. Rick is trying to make all the money in the world that he can make right now. And if it's out there, he should be allowed to go make it. So I totally support that. And to WWE's credit, they were kind enough to release him because I think he signed the new deal last year. So kudos to WWE for allowing a legend to go about his business. That's great. And listen, Rick, I'm going to tell you right now, I would love for you to go to AEW and get some of that Shad Khan money. You know, there's still a little bit of that $100 million left. Maybe you can pull $2, $3, $4 million out of that. Why not? You're Ric Flair. You know, let's spend all of Shad Khan's money so billionaire Tony can keep dipping into his inheritance. All right, that's the goal here. So please sign Ric Flair, sign him to a lucrative contract. You know, give him a T-shirt deal, have him manage somebody for a little while, and you know that would be great. AEW is where all the old timers go to get a good payday. I love it. Let's keep that going, you know. But the WWE keeps rolling around. You know, there's speculation too of and I brought it up earlier. Adam Cole, his contract is up in the WWE, and people are trying to figure out what is he going to do next. And I'll tell you right now, if it were up to me, let him go. Adam Cole is a talented young man, but he is not a box office draw. He's just not. When I have a Roman Reigns, when I have a Bobby Lashley, when I have a Drew McIntyre, when I have a Kofi Kingston, when I have a Big E, when I have a Charlotte Flair, a Sasha Banks, a Bianca Belair, an Asuka, a Bayley, I mean, where is Adam Cole? Huh? I can keep going. Right? The stuff that Baron Corbin is doing right now is fantastic, right? Omos is just you know, he's coming up. Some of the stuff he's doing is just perfect. Where's Adam Cole in that? Right? Who's going to give up TV time for Adam Cole? Who? Big E? Kofi Kingston? Who? AJ Styles? Like, where is Shinsuke Nakamura? Where is Adam Cole going to find TV time where you're going to take somebody else off TV in favor of him? He's not even in their league. Not even close. Listen, Adam Cole is not even as good as Ricochet. And you all know how I feel about Ricochet. I think he's a bum. Adam Cole's not even that good. So where's he going to be? Let him go. Right? He couldn't draw you anything anyway compared to some of these other big stars. You got John Cena, Goldberg. These guys are back for now. There's still Brock Lesnar that's out there. Come on. Becky Lynch hasn't even stepped foot in the ring again yet, but we all assume that she will. There's no room for Adam Cole. See you later, pal. See you later. We don't need you. But I hope you go get some of that Tony Khan money because, hey, look, we know that, you know, rich white male wrestlers, I mean, that's Tony Khan's fetish there, it seems. So, hey, maybe you can get some of that billionaire Tony money, right? Who knows? Certainly Bray Wyatt being released by the WWE, which is another thing that happened. And it was interesting when that happened because Vince McMahon said, hey, you know, maybe we'll give AEW some more of our talent if they want to invest in something. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said on the Q2 investor call. And then, boom, Bray Wyatt gets released. Is Bray Wyatt going to go to AEW and get some of that billionaire Tony money? That would be interesting. I wouldn't be upset with that either, because that seems to be the way to go these days, right? We'll have to wait and see, but it's really fun to watch WWE. They're up 19% on the quarter. To watch them continue to make money. They continue to feature people of color at the top of their card, and they're experiencing tremendous success while doing that. I mean, here's a company that, as they get more diverse, the people who have owned the industry for so long, you know, white men, there are less slots for them because you got to make room for everybody else. So they're going to AEW to go sink that ship. And I'm all for it. Go ahead. And you know something? When I look at AEW and I see people like Sonny Kiss, who Wait until you see what happens to him on the next episode of AEW Dark. They did a pile driver to him on the outside, took him out, just completely burying this guy, right? Lee Johnson, who can't seem to get a win, this guy is just a perennial loser for the most part. He only has a few wins. I think he has like 13, 14 wins in his entire AEW career. It's like maybe some of these guys should be released by AEW and they can come to WWE where they'll actually be treated like stars and win matches and have opportunity, because they certainly don't have it where they're at. But I digress, right? You wait until next week. You're going to hear a conversation with me and Al Cunowa from Forbes magazine that is just going to blow you away. It's going to upset all the humanoids, right? Billionaire Tony, who knows? I don't know if he's going to drink more coffee or drink more alcohol, or what's that stuff that the degenerates down in Florida do? What's that stuff they call it? Cranium? You're going to do more cranium maybe? I don't know. I don't know what he does. I'm just saying, these are some of the things that possibly could cause a person like him to act the way that he's acting. So who knows? But when he hears what happens next week, not going to be too comfortable. So it's interesting. The world of pro wrestling it keeps rolling. A lot of things are happening. A lot of positive things are happening, but a lot of things that need to be improved upon. There's no two ways about it. And we're on the road to SummerSlam. And you can bet John Cena versus Roman Reigns. I mean, this is going to be the most talked about match probably of the last 10 years. I mean, really, this is going to be something special, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what Bobby Lashley and Goldberg do to try to offset that. And don't forget, you got a guy like Big E who has the briefcase. So what's going to happen there? And then on the women's front, is Becky Lynch ready to come back yet? That's what I need to know. Somebody's got to tell me, where is Becky Lynch? We're on Becky watch, right? And then you have the Olympics where Adeline Gray, she ended up with the silver medal. Congratulations to Adeline. But I'm going to tell you right now, she's not the only one, right? I'm sitting here and I'm watching the Olympic Games, and I love wrestling. That's just something that, I'm very serious about. Helen Maroulis. Now, she was in the 57 kilogram area there. She won the bronze medal, right? She won the bronze medal, and that's her second medal in the Olympics. So shout out to Helen. But I'm going to tell you right now, I saw somebody who I feel like she could be the biggest thing in wrestling that we've seen in many, many years. Okay? And she was in a match that was probably the best wrestling match that I've ever seen. Okay? Tamyra Mensah Stock. She won the gold medal. And she was in a match against a young lady from Nigeria, and I saw everything. I saw a leg almost get broken. I saw slaps. I saw eye pokes. I saw everything in this match. I saw some of the best defense I've ever seen in wrestling. Everything. And what's funny is that Tamyra, she made it clear that she would love to be a WWE superstar. And I saw that Bianca Belair actually retweeted her too. Gold medal winner. Not a joke. Somebody who is built and ready for this game. So what's up? You know what I mean? Can we get her part of SummerSlam? Is that possible? I would love it. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, man. It's just the sky is the limit, okay? The sky is the limit. There's so much going on. It's positive. And it's a reminder, too, the Olympics, such a grand stage there. Pro wrestling is a worldwide medium, and it's something that people forget that, it crosses all boundaries, man. It really does, especially when it's done right. And that's why this week I got a special guest. I'm going to take a quick time out. When we get back, you're going to hear a really interesting conversation, right? I got a guy from Pakistan who wants you to know about pro wrestling fandom from that part of the world and just how it's evolved and where it is today. So when we take a quick break and when we get back, we're going to hear from Asjad, our Pakistani friend here who loves pro wrestling. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Earl Oliver from Solely Finish Wrestling.
This is Raj Giri with WrestlingInc.com.
This is Sean Reed, boxing writer and undercover low-key wrestling fan, and you're listening to Duke Loves Wrestling. Woo!
You know, one of the best parts about being a pro wrestling fan is that you get wrapped up in these crazy storylines and these larger-than-life superheroes, people who you look up to and aspire to be like in certain ways. I mean, I can remember growing up as a kid, Ric Flair, he was somebody that I aspired to be like to a certain degree. You know, somebody who could say that they're going to do something, then go out there and do it. Tell you that they're the champion, that they're the greatest, and then go out there and prove it. That type of concept is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and I challenge myself in that way. You know what I mean? I say, yeah, I can do this. And it's like, all right, I said it. Now I gotta prove it. So pro wrestling is really interesting in teaching a lot of life lessons if you choose to look at it from that perspective. Because of that, it translates very well around the world. And I think sometimes we here in the United States of America, we forget that there's more out there than just what we know and what we see, and therefore what we understand. So I'm always curious and interested in talking to people from around the world and just hearing from them what it's like being a pro wrestling fan over there. And such is the case this week here. I mean, I have a guy on the line who is just a really huge wrestling fan, lifelong wrestling fan. He comes from a family of wrestling fans, and he wants you to know a little something about his country. So without further ado, all the way from Pakistan, my man, my brother, Mr. Asjad. How are you, Asjad?
Oh, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Duke. I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Listen, tell me about Pakistan a little bit here. If somebody were to say to you, I don't know anything about Pakistan as a country, how would you describe it in a couple of sentences?
So Pakistan is a beautiful country. People here have a wonderful heart. They're extremely humble. They're extremely soft-hearted people. In addition to that, I think we're sort of misunderstood in the Western side of the world in terms of news. A lot of it is very wrongly manipulated by media and the news agencies. But we're a country. We're known for being sports enthusiasts. We're known for having some of the world's greatest cricket players in the world, and Pakistan is well known for their cricket team. In addition to that, we're known for our food. The food here is amazing. And we're also known for the north side of the country, which is perhaps one of the most gorgeous mountain-filled places in the world. A lot of people can, sort of Google it and check it out. So that's a small description of what Pakistan is. But I think the key point here is we're misunderstood a lot in the Western side of the world.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up cricket. My mother's side of my family is originally from Jamaica. So cricket is something that I've grown up with my entire life. And I can remember, a park down the street from my aunt's house, they would have cricket matches on every weekend. And in fact, my aunt's boyfriend, he was a cricket player growing up as well. So he'd have all these cricket trophies everywhere and what have you. What is it about the sport of cricket that has become so popular in Pakistan in particular? Why do you think it's such a popular sport?
So what happens is that in the early 80s or 90s, when in Pakistan, when television was becoming more prominent, TV channels were coming and media was growing, Pakistan had a very talented group of cricketers at the time. Young, raw, but very talented. They were sort of making their way into the world. They were well known. What happened was that is exactly when media came into prominence. And, the first set of superstars in from Pakistan basically came from that sport. And that is why it became so popular. That is why so many children started following it. That is why so many children actually wanted to go into that profession. They wanted to play that sport. They wanted to join cricket academies. And that is a major reason why cricket became so popular. So early 80s to the 90s was a time when everything was focused on cricket. The superstars coming out from any global sport, cricket was the major, stronghold point of this country. Interestingly, the current Prime Minister of Pakistan is actually a World Cup winning captain of the Pakistan cricket team. His name is Imran Khan. You might know him or you might not. But the Prime Minister, the guy who's running this country, was actually one of our greatest cricket players and arguably our greatest captains as well. He won a World Cup. So that itself says a lot.
Well, that definitely says a lot there. I mean, Jesus, if he is a World Cup winner in the most popular sport in the country, that says a lot about his visibility and popularity and what have you. So there's no surprise that he's the prime minister. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Asjad, there's something interesting about the fact that pro wrestling has found its way to Pakistan. And not only has it found its way to Pakistan, it's actually pretty popular as well. Talk to me about your earliest memories of watching pro wrestling. Like, what was that like, and what was on the TV when you were watching back then?
So I was born in 91, right? So my siblings, I'm the smallest of my siblings. They're all elder to me. They used to watch wrestling a lot, so naturally I used to sit with them and watch it. My earliest memories, basically, when I was understanding wrestling, not in a very intellectual way, but just sort of getting to know the superstars and sort of becoming a mark, as they say. That is basically when I was watching, I was 4 or 5 years old. I was understanding Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels from the WWE. On the WCW side, it was, of course, I was shocked when Nash and Hall walked to the WCW World Championship Wrestling. And Hogan, of course, Hogan was a big star. I had an idea that this guy was a big star before I was born, and when I was born, obviously I could not understand him at that time, and I was like, who's this Hulk Hogan guy? He's so popular, he's so famous. And when sort of I grasped onto who he was, how great he was, and I realized that he's in WCW, it was very shocking for me. But my earliest memories and the most prominent superstars at that time who I became a fan of, one was Bret the Hitman Hart, of course, the excellence of execution. The other was the Undertaker, and of course Shawn Michaels was there as well. And then there were other guys who really sort of caught my attention. Kurt Hennig, right? Just before them there was Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. He was superb. I watched a lot of VHS tapes of Roddy Piper. He was just amazing. I became a huge fan, and I think I take pride in this. I take a lot of pride in this, that when I was starting to understand wrestling and how it works, I saw the Attitude Era, the Stone Cold Steve Austin King of the Ring segment live on TV, and that was absolutely amazing. As a little kid, that is my favorite memory. There is absolutely no alternative to it.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Just one more thing. And in addition to that, I mean, that was more of a thing that, sort of transformed the industry. Apart from that, one of my, as a kid, one of my most greatest memories was when Taker returned, when Yokozuna injured him in that casket match with 50, 60 other people, and when Undertaker made that return. That was a really cool moment for me as a young wrestling man.
You're taking me back, because those are all classic moments and really classic times in history, which I love. Talk to me about Bret Hart for a second. That's one of the first names that you mentioned. And I don't think people who were born, let's say after 1995 can really understand the popularity that Bret Hart had around the world. I mean, this guy legitimately was the world's champion, and people all over, and especially in that whole part of the world there, when we talk about Pakistan, India, all different parts of Asia, whether it be, north, south, east, west, whatever. Bret Hart was somebody that was accepted and celebrated as a real world champion. Why was he so popular to folks over there?
I'll tell you some very interesting theories about Bret and his popularity. And in comparison to other wrestlers who were maybe more popular, and probably they should have not been more popular. So I'll start it off. So basically, as I stated earlier in the cricket remit, it was the 90s, late 80s when television, TV channels, became a household thing or started to become a household thing. At that time, wrestling was obviously aired here, and that was a key component for people here because Bret Hart was the champion at that time. He was the star, he was the baby face, and naturally kids like me, my siblings, fans around Pakistan became more inclined and started liking Bret Hart, and sort of became his fans. And in addition to that, he was so good in the ring. You did not have to be a very intellectual wrestling fan to see that this guy is super good in the ring. I mean, the stories he told, I'm not even talking about his technical ability right now. The stories Bret told in the ring, he was fantastic. And all of the pink attire, his entrance, his sunglasses, of course, and his catchphrase, the best there is. I mean, at that time, when you call yourself the best, it actually has an impact on everybody. Today, maybe it doesn't, but when at that time, if somebody says I'm the best, for example, Ric Flair used to say that, Bret used to say that had an impact on the audience. People connected with it. That this guy says he's the best. He's so cool. He's the world champion. Bret was, of course, the most popular wrestling star at that time. And he is one of the greatest. But now I'll come to the more interesting part. In this side of the world, in Pakistan, Bret was the number one guy. But Shawn Michaels and Undertaker were more over with the fans here. And that wasn't down to that doesn't mean they were superior or something. It was just that their characters were more compelling. People tried to connect. Undertaker was this dead man, magical guy, dark from the dark side. Kids used to be really scared of him, but he was very famous. He was something different at the time, right? He was something different from your usual wrestling stars like Hogan, Flair, Bret. He was something different. He was more over here. And Shawn Michaels, it was just, the sexy boy, his style. He was over with the women. Girls really liked him. He had a very catchy theme music. These guys were more popular than Bret Hart. I don't think that's true for example, the United States or those countries where wrestling was sort of being followed since way before the 90s. But in Pakistan, even though Bret Hart was the best in the world, he was for me, but Taker and Shawn were more over than him. Fans like Taker and Shawn more. I used to see more people wearing Taker and HBK shirts here than Bret Hart. But that does not mean Bret wasn't popular. He was hugely popular. I mean, if you ask a top 3 list from a Pakistani fan who watched wrestling in the 90s, he'll probably say Taker, Shawn, and Bret. They'll keep Bret on third, not on first. If you ask me, I'm always going to keep him on top. So, I mean, maybe Bret was great, but for this sort of audience, his character was not as compelling as as a Shawn Michaels or as an Undertaker. They were more dynamic in a way. Bret was a little, I mean, I don't know how to say that, but it's very hard for me to explain here. But they were a bit more compelling characters than Bret Hart per se.
Well, I think you're describing it very well there, Asjad. Bret Hart was not as flashy as the other guys.
Flashy, flashy is the word. Yes.
Yeah. He's not as flashy. Shawn Michaels is coming out and he's dancing and wiggling his hips and wearing all these these funny clothing and what have you. The Undertaker, like you said, the dead man with the black magic and all that stuff there. Bret Hart just came out in his cool sunglasses and systemically he just beat you down. You know what I mean? He worked on a body part and he found, like you said, technically his wrestling ability was clear. You didn't have to be the smartest fan in the world or understand pro wrestling to understand what he was doing in the ring. It was easy to get, but because he didn't have all that extra character work, that's where those other guys came out and became as popular as they were. So I get it. You're absolutely right there. Yeah. Now you said something interesting. You said that you watched the King of the Ring when Stone Cold Steve Austin gave that magical speech and officially became Stone Cold Steve Austin. You said you watched that live on TV. So how late was it over there? Because, there's a pretty significant time difference between Pakistan and let's say the East Coast of the United States here.
Oh, it used to be after midnight. It used to be after 12 a.m. But like I said, we were such passionate wrestling fans. We used to sit down and watch it, especially the pay-per-views.
So you'd have a tough time in school the next morning there because you were you were up late, huh?
brother, I have to watch live shows at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I got to work at 8. So this is more difficult. School was easy.
Wow. So you're talking about today. You're watching at 5 a.m. That is something else, man. That is so tell me about today, because we talked about, growing up. When it comes to pro wrestling today, who are some of these stars that are more popular in Pakistan?
I think this one, Duke, is very obvious. It's naturally John Cena. Kids are crazy after him. He is just I mean, whether we like him or we don't, he is just insanely popular. John Cena is just something else. Every kid, every father, every grandfather, every mother knows about him. Every woman crushes on him. So it's definitely John Cena. And in recent time, it's followed by, I would say, Roman Reigns. So Roman, I know we never used to, when Roman was a babyface, I hated him because I sort of came to understand pro wrestling at that time. I'm sure a lot of guys really did not like him. I was like, why are they shoving this guy up? Yeah, I get it, he's talented, but don't shove him. I mean, we all had that kind of discussion. But the kids here, the majority, I say these kids here because they are the majority of the fan base, right? They are the ones buying the merchandise. They are the ones asking their parents to spend. Yeah, so Roman Reigns and John Cena are two guys who were insanely popular from the last 10 years. Of course, the Undertaker retained his fan base here. Undertaker always had a fan base here, whether it was in the 90s or whether it's today. Taker is also insanely popular. So if I have to make a list of 5, I'd say it's John Cena, it's the Undertaker, it's Roman Reigns, and the next 2 would probably be this is a very interesting question. One of them would be Randy Orton, right? Randy Orton is extremely popular, and the final guy would be Triple H. Yeah, Triple H was very famous here because Triple H has basically been in every era, starting from 90s till today. And WWE, when they're marketing stuff, they don't miss Triple H. They always put Triple H somewhere there. So those are the 5, I would say, they were insanely popular in this era.
That's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. So you have a mix of older stars, and then you have, some of these current stars here as well. And I mean, of course, John Cena, everybody's favorite hero there, the all-American good guy. He's somebody who translates well all across the world, especially to the kids. That's interesting. Well, Asjad, what about the women? Have you seen a increase in popularity for the women, like Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky? Has that caught up yet over in Pakistan?
It has. It has caught up here, but I'd tell you something very interesting about that. And this might be completely different from the rest of the world. Trish Stratus and Lita, they were more over with the fans than Charlotte, Sasha, or Becky or Bayley are currently, right? So that's the interesting point. At the time when Trish and Lita were the stars, and when Mickie James came in, the fan base of women, the women fan base was more popular than it is right now. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure why is that so. I don't have a good answer for that. But that's something very interesting. Even though they've sort of promoted the women even more now, and they've made them look like proper stars, like superstars, like you say, Becky Lynch stepping up to John Cena, and they've sort of promoted it that way. But Lita and Trish were so over with the fans. I've never seen Becky, Charlotte, or Sasha get that over with the fans here. And I'm not talking about myself. They are definitely, I'm a fan of them. I'm a fan of all of them. I'm talking about the general audience here because, as I said earlier, I think they matter more than the minority of us. So that is the interesting part, because what I hear from the other side of the world on social media and when I listen to podcasts and interviews, they say that women's wrestling has actually taken a revolution today. And I would say the real revolution was Trish and Lita in Pakistan, at least in this country.
That is really, really interesting, Asjad. And I wonder if the glamour aspect has anything to do with it, because
it does probably.
Okay. See, I figured that because, there was more about the makeup and the outfits and the things like that. Whereas the women of today are promoted as athletes who are going into the ring and beating people up. You know what I mean? And it's a lot less about their looks, not to say they're not as beautiful. Of course they are, but the emphasis is more on their in-ring work as opposed to their beauty. Today versus back then. So that's really interesting. I'd be curious, Asjad, and we'll definitely have to have you back sometime, or if you know anyone, especially a woman who at one time was a wrestling fan. I'd love to ask them why Trish and Lita were more over previously than say some of the women of today, because it would be interesting to hear directly from them about that. But that's really, really interesting. So what about other promotions, Asjad? I mean, we know that TNA, what we call Impact Wrestling today, we know that they've done a couple of tours in India, which is next door to you there. Rock King and some of these other things that Global Force Wrestling, some of these things that Jeff Jarrett has tried to put on and unfortunately didn't do so well. Or even AEW, I mean, the new kid on the block in pro wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is in a different part of the continent over there. Are any of these other promotions as popular as WWE or even popular at all?
I'd like to take you back to the 90s when WCW was kicking WWE's ass. So the interesting part is, even at that point in time in Pakistan, WWF or WWE was more popular. WCW was known here. It was moderately popular, but even at that time, it wasn't as popular as WWE or WWF. And I think that's also down to I won't say it's direct marketing, but indirect marketing. WWE was readily more available on television in Pakistan. WWE merchandise was readily more available in Pakistan. I'm not saying maybe they might have had the intention to sort of reach Pakistan. They might have not, but WWE has always been popular. And when I move forward to today, I would say that AEW, TNA, they're not even half as popular as WCW was at that time. So I'm sure you can assume how far ahead WWE is.
Wow. So is AEW even on television over there in Pakistan?
No, it's not. It's not. We get WWE. We have a sports channel which telecasts WWE live, all the shows. We have Impact Wrestling. We even have Ring of Honor here. We even get Ring of Honor here, and we have New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. Obviously, naturally people don't watch it much, but like AEW is nowhere right now. People like us who watch it have to actually stream it online or download it or whatever.
Now you and I actually connected on Raj Giri's page, and shout out to Raj Giri. He's the guy that runs Wrestling Inc., literally the number one pro wrestling news website in the world.
Agreed.
Talk to me about following the wrestling websites. Is that really the best way that you keep up with what's going on in pro wrestling?
Yeah. So I would say it's one of them is obviously Twitter. That's the social media aspect. The other is, of course, the wrestling websites. Wrestling Inc. is a very good website. I believe PW Mania, PW Torch are extremely famous for in Pakistan. A lot of people sort of who are not able to watch it live sort of open PW Mania or PW Torch to read the results quickly. Wrestling Inc. is just as famous here. So yeah, that wrestling websites people do, and trust me, there are wrestling fans, I'll tell you, who are sick and tired of it, who don't watch it. All they do is go to these websites, they read the results, they read the promos, and that's about it. I know fans who do that. They don't watch it anymore. Yeah.
So they don't necessarily watch the current product anymore, but they keep up by reading about it online. And maybe if there's something that is interesting enough, they'll find it online, but they're not watching the shows, huh? Wow.
Yes. So I have an example here. One of my colleagues at work, he's also a wrestling fan. He does not get time to watch it, or he does not want to watch it. I don't know, but he keeps up with it. He reads the result, and when he saw that John Cena made his return at the last pay-per-view, he watched the entire pay-per-view later that day. Not just the John Cena part. He watched the entire pay-per-view. That sort of sparked in him, I need to see this. It's Roman Reigns is a massive heel. I'm reading it nowadays on the website, and John Cena just returned. This is going to be good. And he tuned in and he watched it. So that's a very good trend here in Pakistan. People do that a lot.
You just said a lot with that statement there, because it shows the drawing power of established stars and why it's important to mix them in with today's current stars in order to keep the business itself healthy. Like you said,
absolutely.
Here's what we call a lapsed fan, somebody who used to watch, who stopped watching. An established star spark their interest enough for them to come back and see what's going on and watch a whole pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that is tremendous.
Yeah.
That is tremendous. What about YouTube, Asjad? Is that something that is very popular over in Pakistan?
Absolutely. It's as popular in Pakistan as it is in the rest of the world. Everybody uses YouTube. Everybody watches videos on YouTube. So that is very popular.
Is it easier to watch things on YouTube than it is some of these other apps? I mean, for instance, when it comes to podcasts, where do you listen to podcasts? Like what are the mediums that you can follow podcast the easiest, if you listen to any at all?
So if it's up to me, I have done my research on podcast. I am using an Apple iPhone, so I use Apple Podcast to listen to most of them. And in addition to that, I mostly prefer YouTube. YouTube is where I go to listen to all the podcasts which are available. And as far as other people are concerned, I don't think they sort of listen to podcasts on apps like Apple Podcast or on external websites. But YouTube is the medium where they listen to podcasts.
So for all you podcasters out there, you definitely want to find a way to maintain a presence on YouTube, because as you heard from Asjad, different parts of the world, that could be their main medium, and why would you want to give up on those listens? If you can have them, why not? That's for sure. Listen, Asjad, you're a good guy here, man, and I really enjoy your enthusiasm for pro wrestling. It reminds me of what it means to be a real fan. You know what I mean? I mean, you go out of your way all the way to 5 o'clock in the morning. You're watching wrestling before you have to go to work just to keep up with what's going on. You're a great fan. I love it. I love the passion.
Thank
I love
you.
the feeling there. And it just feels good to know that no matter where people are in the world, there is a pro wrestling community. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There are people who, like us, who care enough about it to take the time and spend personal time keeping up with it. So it's pretty cool. Why don't you let everybody know, if anyone wants to follow you online and interact with you, talk wrestling with you, what's the best way that they can find you online?
Oh, I think Twitter. My Twitter handle is Asjad11, ASJAD11. So that is where you can follow me.
That's good stuff. Asjad11. And I'll definitely be tagging it in the bio of this show here, folks. And I'll definitely tag Asjad on Twitter so you can keep up with him. Listen, before I let you go, Asjad, I got to ask you one last question. And this is an important one because, this is Duke Loves Rasslin. And not only does Duke love wrestling, Duke loves food. I am a huge food fan. And I know from personal experience that when it comes to food, especially from Pakistan, shawarma, okay? We're talking shawarma, especially my favorite type, if you get the lamb and the beef mix. There is something about getting a really good shawarma, not just a shawarma plate. Have them make the whole sandwich for you, and it's crispy on the outside, it's chewy on the inside, the meat is properly seasoned and marinated. Oh my goodness, just the flavors is just incredible. Where is the best place to get the best shawarma in the world? Where is it in Pakistan?
Oh, it's pretty much in every city in Pakistan, whether you go to our capital in Islamabad, whether you come to Lahore, Karachi, these are the three famous cities. You'll find the best shawarmas everywhere. I don't want to quote one, and I'll tell you, and one small interesting thing about food here. Food is so delicious and so popular in Pakistan that we have inter-cities rivalries. People are like, we debate about pro wrestling. People here are debating about food. One city says, for example, our shawarma is better. Our shawarma kicks ass. My city says, no, our shawarma is better. The third city would say, our shawarma. There's actually a food war going on in Pakistan. In every city, they're hyping up their food. Every city says, our food is the best. That is how important food is. And that is how delicious it is. So that's why I said you're going to find the best shawarma in pretty much every city in Pakistan. Because Pakistan is one of the originators. I wouldn't say the originator. I think it's available in Arab countries as well, but one of the originators of different types of shawarmas. So yeah. If you ever get the chance, try local Pakistani food. You're going to absolutely love it.
Okay, so let's say I'm in Pakistan, Asjad.
Yeah.
I'm in Pakistan. I'm in your city, right? Let's say I'm in your city. Tell me what I need to eat. Let's start with the appetizer, the main course, and then the dessert. So give me a whole Pakistani meal. What am I getting?
All right, done. So for breakfast, you're going to have what they call in our language is naan chane, right? So naan is basically like a chapati, right? So I'm sure you know what a chapati is, right?
Well, okay, I've actually had naan chene before, so I know exactly what you mean. But I'm going to go along with you though. I didn't realize that was a Pakistani dish. I want you to explain it though. Yes, I know what a chapati. It's a type of bread. Yep, keep going.
Yeah. It's type of a bread, not exactly like a bread, but it's type of a bread, and the locally produced bread called naan is absolutely amazing. You're going to be like, what is this, man? Along with that, you have chanas. I don't know what they'll call chana in English. I really don't know the word for it. We've never used it here. That's why I probably don't know the word. But it's like beans, maybe. I would say beans in a gravy. So that maybe might be the right explanation for chane. That's what you get for breakfast. You're going to get the best breakfast here in Lahore. There is absolutely no doubt about that, right? And then for lunch, I'd recommend that there's a dish called biryani here. It's very famous in Pakistan, right? If you look up biryani on Google, it doesn't have an English name. It's a rice-based dish. It's based on rice. It's like spicy rice, and they have a lot of chicken in it, and it's very different. It's very tasty as well. So I would recommend
now hold on a second
for lunch.
Asjad, on that. Say it again. Say the word again. I want to make sure I pronounce it right.
Biryani, Biryani, biryani.
Biryani. Now, isn't there an egg involved in that as well?
There could be. So there are different recipes for it. Some people can involve egg in it. Some people might not. So there are different types of biryanis as well. So there might be an egg involved in it. So that is another great dish, which I don't think you'll find any better biryani, any better form of rice than in Pakistan. And for dinner, I'd recommend a barbecue. Pakistani barbecue is absolutely awesome, right? So they have kebabs. They have kebabs there, which are made out of chicken or are made out of beef as well. They're delicious, right? So kebabs and barbecue is something I'd recommend for dinner. So that's your whole day. And for dessert, now that is the interesting part. Okay, so for dessert, there's a dish called halwa, right? So the halwa, HALWA, halwa. It's delicious as well. It's a Pakistani dish. It's a Southeast Asian dish, I would say. It's in India as well. So halwa is something I'd recommend for dessert. I'm not recommending ice cream or milkshakes or stuff like that because it's available everywhere. I'm sticking to Pakistani specific dishes. So that is my overall recommendation to you on food. Our Duke is very hungry now, I'm sure.
I'm very hungry, but now you got to tell everybody what's in the halwa. What is halwa?
It's like a sweet. It's like a very sweet dish. It has some nuts in it. Some nuts are mixed in it, and maybe nuts are mixed in it, and you sort of just use it. And I don't know. It's very hard to explain. It's so delicious, but I think I can talk about wrestling all day long. I can talk about food, but it's so hard to explain the dishes and the recipes. I don't cook. I'm a terrible cook.
But you eat. Yeah, that's everybody has a role. You eat.
I
Now, can we agree to do like a date milkshake to go along with that? There is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah.
You get you got to blend up the dates with the honey, maybe a little bit of milk in there, and serve it ice cold. Right, a little bit of cinnamon on top.
Absolutely.
Come on, cinnamon, nutmeg on top. Come on. Listen, bro.
Absolutely, I agree.
I know my food and drinks now, Asjad.
You do. And you know what the interesting part is? When you mentioned milkshakes, Pakistan and India and these Southeast Asian countries, they're very well known for their agriculture, right, and farming. So naturally, with agriculture and farming, the fruits which are grown here are much more tastier, much more fresher than you might find in other countries. In fact, the interesting part is when Pakistanis move to countries like United States or UK, let's say, the only thing they ask from us relatives is, please send us the mangoes, please send us the bananas, because the fruits here are I don't know if it's good to say this, but I think the original fruits are here in these countries, and you guys need to really pick up some fruits from us, because we have a very huge fruit industry, a very huge agriculture and farming industry, and then I'll go to the milkshakes. So when you are having milkshakes, they're obviously based off of fruit. So when you're having a milkshake, for example, a mango milkshake from a Pakistani mango, a properly farmed and grown Pakistani mango, the taste becomes 10 times much better than how would you experience a shake anywhere else in the world. So yeah, anything that is related to fruits in Pakistan, you're going to love it.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story real quick, Asjad, and we'll end it here. Yesterday, I literally blended up some mango, and I put a little bit of honey in there with it, and just a little bit of milk, and then I froze it. And you gotta mash it. You gotta mash it up while it's freezing inside of the Ziploc bag. You gotta mash it every hour and a half or so to get the proper consistency. But what you end up having is like a frozen treat, like a slushy or what have you. Because as it melts, you could stick a straw in there and drink it as you're using your spoon to spoon it out and eat it as well. So it's just a really nice, there's nothing like a fresh mango though. You're absolutely right. I love mango. I don't like them sour though, Asjad. I got to have them sweet. I don't like them sour. I know some people like sour mango and I guess it's related to the papaya family. So they do different things where they'll season it with chili pepper and salt and stuff. No, I like to have sweet mango. That's my favorite.
No, nobody does that here. All mangoes are sweeter. They're fresh, and all of them are sweeter. Yeah.
Well, now that we've talked about wrestling, we've talked about food, we've certainly talked about mangoes. Listen, Asjad, we appreciate you, man. You are a wrestling fan. You're a part of the family.
Thank you.
My brother, thank you for your wonderful fandom.
Thank you for your time. It was great, and I hope we do this again someday.
Well, there you have it there, and shout out to Asjad. That was a fun conversation. Really, really good guy. Clearly a major wrestling fan. I love it. I love it. Pro wrestling fandom has no boundaries. Crosses all different races and nationalities and sexes and what have you. It's great. It's great. So once again, shout out to Asjad. That's my brother. We'll have to have him come back. I would love to review SummerSlam with Asjad. So Asjad, you're listening. Stay tuned, brother. We got to get you back on for sure. For sure. And really, that does it this week. Listen, at Duke Loves Rasslin on Twitter, on Facebook, DukeLovesRasslin@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments, certainly, you saw Asjad. He was able to get on the show just by shooting me a message on Twitter. That's the way it is, man. I want to get more listeners on the show like we've done throughout the years, for sure. Tony Khan, as I've said, I'll send you the release. You sign it. If you don't want me to hand out some discipline physically, you can come on the show and we can verbally talk about your misdeeds and how you can correct yourself. We can talk about how you tried to come after my brand and you failed. Let me say that again, Tony Khan. You failed at destroying Duke Loves Rasslin. You can't do it. Your arms are too short to box. Tell your brain trust over there, Mookie and Cody and all the rest of them, your arms are too short to box. You can't handle this over here, son. All right? So, but if you ever feel froggy again, you know where I'm at. You've been in my inbox before, so you know the drill. That's right. With that said, listen, everybody, please be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. As always, we are going to go out with the voice, not only the voice of AEW, the voice of WCW, but I guess I can call him the voice of Duke Loves Rasslin, because other than myself, this guy has been on more episodes than anyone in history, right? So without further ado, my man, and I know Billionaire Tony, this probably hurts you to your soul, which is why I love it. My man, take us away, Mr. Tony Schiavone.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.